of Graduate and Continuing Education and also the Dean of Graduate Admission. And I have with me tonight Liana Caffrey, who is the Director of Graduate Admission. Um, Probably most of you have been talking with Megan Savette during this process if you've had questions. She is the director of the fellowship process. Megan is teaching tonight, so Liana and I are handling the session for tonight. So just to kind of let you know what we're going to be doing, we're just going to go over what you can kind of expect through the fellowship interview process, right? So um, timelines, etc. Just to kind of tell you what it's going to be like because we are going to be together going through this process all the way through at least April for the interview process. And then if you become a fellow, all the way until next May. So we'll be seeing a lot of each other. So I hope that you don't get too bored of seeing our faces. But anyway, so I will share my screen and start this slideshow that we have. If you have questions during the slideshow, just pop them in the chat. Liana will be paying attention to that and she can sort of try to answer them there. And then, of course, we'll have time for questions at the end. So I will start sharing. Okay. Can you see the correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Liana. Okay, so this is about the rankings and the interview process. That's kind of the first piece of this. So hopefully, if you're in this session, it means that you have already been admitted to the program and you have been invited to become part of this fellowship interview process. So I already introduced myself and Liana, and there is Megan, who will be your primary contact throughout this entire process. Liana and I are always here to help, but Megan is really the fellowship guru. So she will be your primary point of contact from now all the way through your fellowship. Okay, so here is the timeline. So many of you are already sort of in this rank and review your fellowship positions, right? That is what's happening right now. So you have been admitted and you have been shown the positions that are available for you to apply to. So now is the time when you are going into your fellowship portal and you are telling us which positions you are interested in interviewing for. You have until Friday, February 13th to complete that. So just a couple of more days. Once you all have done that, all of those rankings that you submit will go to the supervisors who are really the bosses of the sites, right? This is really like a job interview process. They are essentially the hiring managers, and we are just managing the process. So they will look at your fellowship essays and your resumes that you submitted through your admissions application, and they will decide if they want to interview you for their position. If they do, then you will get another message which will give you access to slots, right? Scheduling slots. Um, when you schedule those slots, make sure that you don't double book yourself because you will be required to be at those interviews. I think there's actually a couple of slides that go into that in more detail. So I'll just pause there. But then there will be virtual interviews, right? So that will be March 2nd through March 5th. So those are the days that you will be interviewing over Zoom with each of these supervisors. You will then submit your ranking forms on who you feel like you are the best fit with, right? Who you feel like you would work with. Like if you're interviewing graduate admissions and then say you're in undergraduate admissions or you're with athletics, you will rank and say graduate admissions is my number one choice, undergrad is two, athletics is three, et cetera, et cetera. And so the supervisors will be doing the same thing. They will be ranking you in the order of their preference, right? Sometimes students tie, etc. But that is how we will essentially match, right? You will also be able to make comments in those forms, and so will the supervisors. So we will use the numeric rankings plus the comments that we have to try to make the fellowship matches. That takes a little bit of time for us to go through everything. So when the final ranking forms are due on March 6th through late March is when we will be doing those evaluations and trying to match the students. So you will then get the decisions in late March. We say late March, there's not a hard date there because we never really know how long it's going to take us to do it. So just be patient. Reach out if you feel anxious. We will respond to you and kind of let you know where we are in the process. But likely it will be like the last day of March, if not maybe April 1st or 2nd, depending on how it goes, right? We always have a large pool of fellows. And so it takes a long time to make sure that we're making the best matches. Once you are matched with a fellowship, if you are hopefully matched with a fellowship, you will get what we call the match letter. The match letter will be released, same in your admissions portal, like everything else that you've done. And you will have 5 days from the day that that is released to accept your fellowship and make a deposit if you haven't done that already. Fellowship training. This is an important thing. We expect all of the fellows to be at the fellowship training August 24th through 28th. So mark your calendars now. This is an on-campus training. And you get trained by all different departments on the campus, right? Not just your fellowship site, but you might get training on, from Res Life on what they expect or how to submit a care report if you're working with students, like all types of training across the college. The fellowship placement, your official first day of the fellowship is the first day of school, which is August 31st. And then you go until mid-May 2027. Typically, it is, the last weekish of classes, but once we finalize that schedule, we will let you know what that is. Okay, so that's a lot about the timeline. Probably I'm going to have a lot of redundant information now. Okay, so we'll just go through it again. So the presidential fellowship, right? If you get awarded the presidential fellowship, there is the expectation of 25 hours per week for 100% of your tuition will be paid. Tuition only. You might hear me say that a few times. Fees are not included in the fellowship. It is just your tuition. You are still responsible for fees, books, those types of things. A provost level is 50% of your tuition for 15 hours a week. And then there are scholarships, right? So if you are not awarded a fellowship, it's possible that you will be awarded a scholarship. Again, that's applied to tuition only. If you are in a 2-year program, like school counseling, clinical mental health counseling, social work, you only get the fellowship for the first year and up to 36 credits, right? So you're only getting that tuition benefit during the year that you're working. Okay. I do see a note here that reminds me to say that if you do get the graduate resident director position, if you're looking for that, that does cover the cost of housing. It is because you work more, to be honest, right? When you're a GRD, there is a high level of expectation that you are working more than 25 hours a week. But for those of you who become GRDs, we can talk about that separately. And then within exercise and sports science, there are 2 additional levels, the graduate intern and the sponsored fellowships, which that is new this year. And so those have a different hour per week expectation. We can talk about those too. It looks like Amanda, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. So because the presidential would cover only 100% of 1 year, would we be able to apply for another fellowship the next year to cover the second half or no?
No, fellowships are for first-year students only. But it is possible that there are some tuition benefits, or I should say scholarship benefits for students in their second year. But that does tend to be for programs that are more expensive than others, right? Some of them already have a very low price point where we don't offer additional scholarship. Um, so it depends on program, I would say. But fellowships, 1 year, new students only.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you got it. All right. So as you are submitting your rankings about which sites you think you're most interested in applying to, think about these things, right? Think about what level of support you might need in order to focus on your coursework and fully engage in the fellowship. This includes financial considerations and other commitments you might be balancing. For example, everyone thinks that the Presidential Fellowship is the best because it covers your full tuition. But that's not really true. Sometimes the provost level fellowship is the best option because you're still getting your tuition benefit and you're getting that hands-on work experience and you're only committed to 15 hours a week, which gives you more time to maybe get a side part-time job if you need to, or just focus more on your studies, right? So don't necessarily just think, oh, the presidential is the best. So rank multiple levels is my advice to you in that. Also think about career alignment, right? Are the skills in this fellowship something that are going to help me with my future career? That's not always possible, right? Sometimes we just don't offer fellowships in every discipline, but think about what transferable skills you might be getting in that area that you could then use in your future career. So just keep that in mind. And pay attention to the requirements for each fellowship level, right? It's important that once you make this commitment that you're able to keep that commitment. So if you are committing to an off-campus site for 25 hours a week, you need to be at that off-campus site for 25 hours a week. And then, of course, what I just said about stay open to ranking fellowship roles across the levels, right? Because the presidentials, they are going to be very competitive. And if you only rank presidential fellowships and they get filled by other students, then you will be left out, right? So just consider that as you're ranking. Um, think about crossing levels. Okay, interview week. So this is going to be March 2nd through 5th. So you will be signing up for these through your portal. So you are going to decide when you have time to do these interviews. Again, block your schedule, make sure that you're there. William, do you have a question?
Yes, I was just wondering, how do you guys consider private prior work experience for going into these fellowship programs? Is that ranked in the considerations for these?
It absolutely is. That's why we ask for your resume, and that's why your resume goes to the site supervisor, right? I mean, you really have to think of this as a job interview. They're going to look at what skills you already have, what you've done, and what you're hoping to do, right? Because ideally, the fellowship is preparing you for your next career, right? So we're not just judging you on what you've done, but also on what you're hoping to do.
And then, because I saw in the ways to submit extra work, there was a panel for extra, documentation work of that style. But most of the work that I do is physical media, so it's either pictures, videos, stuff of that nature. Is there any way I can put that in to be taken in for consideration as being like, similar to a resume or like the physical paper that I put in for that to be looked at?
I mean, William, I would say make sure that you share that with the site supervisors when they're interviewing you, right? Or, it's always good to follow up with a thank you email, right? I think that that's probably in one of these slides going forward, but include that in your thank you email, right? Here's some additional information that you might want to know about me.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Amanda, do you have another question?
Yes. So someone else also mentioned in the chat, when I log in, I only see options for presidential fellowships. I don't see any options for provost. So,
That may
does that,
be that your specific program only has presidential fellowships associated with it, which is sometimes the case.
okay, thank you.
So I will double check with Megan just to make sure that all the levels are showing correctly. Um, that portal looks beautiful, but it's a complicated system operating behind there. So sometimes it could be incorrect, and I will double check on that to make sure. But there definitely are program. What's your program?
Social work.
Yeah, social work is presidential only. So there you go. And I will just say social work is very competitive, right? I love you social workers. I love what you're doing. I wish that I had 100 fellowships for all of you, but it's very difficult for us to align our fellowships on campus with the CSWE requirements, right? It sort of is another layer there, and we are working on getting more and more and more of them. But right now, I will say to you, social workers, it is very competitive. So just keep that in mind. Put your best foot forward, and we will do what we can for you. Okay,
I have a question about the interviews.
sure.
Um, 'Cause obviously I'm on the West Coast. What time do they start?
Well,
Do
there will
you
be
have an
all
idea?
different times. Yeah. Leanna, I
They-
feel like you're going to say something.
They're
Okay,
usually
'cause-
between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, David. Each supervisor will have at least 4 to 6 different times that week, like blocks of time for students to be able to schedule time. But it is an Eastern Standard Time because most of the positions are here on campus at Merrimack, and we're on Eastern Standard Time.
okay, and then my next question is it's weird. I currently have a well, I'll just say I currently have a lawsuit against a former employer. And it it's been 5 years and it actually goes to court starting on March 2nd. So how do I mean I'll figure out I'll know within the next week or so for sure when the court dates are and everything like that. So obviously if it is during that week, I would have to do it in the morning, probably 6 o'clock my time.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know how long the interviews last. I don't have a problem waking up early
Each,
and doing it if that
yeah,
is the case. Or later. I don't remember what time you said it ends, but
it ends, and usually the hours are between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard
okay, so then
Time.
that'd be 2 o'clock. Yes, my
Right.
best bet would have to be 6 in the morning,
And
Okay.
each
depending how long
interview,
they last.
yep, it's usually about a 20 to 25-minute interview. There are
Okay.
30-minute blocks, and supervisors, I'm a supervisor, so I usually give myself about 25 minutes to interview a candidate and then give myself a few minutes to type up some notes before I go
Okay.
into my next interview. But as you go through the process, one of the things that I wanted to mention is all of you will be able to rank up to 6 positions. And we really, really, really encourage you to choose your 6. Don't choose 2, don't choose 3, choose
I
6.
did do, I think I did 6 already.
Okay. The
You can go
reason,
back and change it, can you? If you
yep,
once you set
you
it,
can
it's
change
set in
it.
stone.
That you can go in and look at them. That's why we're doing this information session tonight, because we want to make sure that students have the most information to make their decisions. But the reason that we encourage you to do 6 is there's no guarantee you're going to get interviewed by everybody. So just because you choose 6, you may only receive 2 interview offers, right? So we
Mhm.
try to have everybody interview at least once, but not everybody's going to get all 6, right? It depends on you as the applicant. It depends on the supervisors that are previewing the applicants and making the decisions about who they'd like to interview and who they think might be a good fit. So I hope
And
that
if you
gives a
don't
little bit
get
more.
the scholarships, is that where the scholarships come into, or is that different?
So after we go through the fellowship process, if
Mhm.
if everybody interviews, not everybody's going to be offered a fellowship. We have more applicants than we do fellowships. It's a
Yes.
very competitive process. That's why we're doing this this information session, because we want everybody to put their best foot forward, right? So if you go through the fellowship process and you're not offered a fellowship, it doesn't mean you weren't an excellent candidate. It just means that there were, other people that had a more compelling or more competitive edge for that particular position. So then students will be evaluated for scholarship after that.
Okay. All right. And when does that, I guess, when do you find out
As
about
Jean
receiving the
said, we're
scholarship?
really hoping that we'll make fellowship decisions by the end of March. And if you are told that you do not receive a fellowship, then you will be hearing about scholarship information shortly after that.
Right. And
Okay.
I will just add that not every program receives a scholarship even if you don't get fellowship, right? Sometimes
Hmm.
it's just the tuition is the tuition,
Yes.
but that will be reviewed on a
You know,
program by
it's
program.
nice to find out. I mean, I do everything so much ahead of time because if things fall through, then that way I know how much I need to take out in loans if that's the case. So
Right,
that's
right.
why I'm asking these questions. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, all right. I see, Brianna, you
thank
have
you.
your hand raised also.
Yes, hello. I just had a
Hi.
question about when signing up for interviews.
Yep.
Is it possible, like how much time should I schedule between interviews if I were to schedule two interviews on the same day?
Well, I would say take the slots that you can, right? Because again, the slots are going to be sort of competitive, right? Because people will be having like David's, for example, right? He needs to get an early morning one, or people need to get certain times of the day. So as soon as you receive this email on February 25th, get in there as soon as possible and take the slots that are going to work for you. Ideally, you would have, as Liana said, 10 or 15 minutes in between an interview to make notes, right? Because you're going to then go back in and rank that site, and you want to be able to remember what that interview was like. Um, so ideally, I would give yourself 15 minutes in between. Um, if you cannot do that, right, because the slots are back to back, just take them back to back and do your best to take notes afterwards.
Okay, and are there time limits on each interview?
Each one is a 30-minute slot.
Okay.
So you'll
Thank
see it will look like this. If you can see my screen here, this is what it's going to look like. You'll be able to just pick these slots, right? So the available times will be in green. So you will select that date that's convenient for you. Um, Now, this is a very important note also. Some supervisors supervise more than one fellowship position, right? So, like Liana, let's use for example. Maybe Liana is overseeing graduate admissions and graduate coaching, right? If you see the same supervisor's name, but you're interviewing for multiple positions, you only need to interview with them one time. They will know via the system that you are interested in more than one position. And of course, mention that during your interview, right? Liana, I'm interested in both of your positions. Make sure that the supervisor knows that you're interested in multiple positions that they have available. So do not schedule more than one interview with the same person. One interview is enough for their slots.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. Okay. So we'll move along. So, interview tips. Here we go. So, prepare ahead of time. Again, these are job interviews, right? You really have to think of this as a job interview. It is those supervisors that are going to tell us if they want to hire you. So, think through the examples that you might want to share. Prepare for this like it's an interview. Ask thoughtful questions, but relevant questions, right? Don't ask questions just to ask questions. Ask questions that you really want to know the answer to or that are going to be relevant to your work experience. Present yourself professionally. Don't be late, right? Don't, have on like something that maybe is considered unprofessional. Dress up a little bit. Treat it like an interview, right? Follow up with a thank you email, like I said before. And then again, like William, say to them, here is some additional information that you might want to know about me, right? So that gives you an opportunity to maybe say something that you forgot or give them additional information about you. So definitely that thank you email, very important. Um, don't get so nervous that you feel like you can't ask questions, right? Maybe think about it ahead of time. Like, what do you really want to know about this position? Write them down so that you have something that's sort of guiding you through. Try to give examples if you can, right? About experiences that you've had, or if you don't have these experiences, about maybe what you hope to do, right? An example of something that you hope to do in your fellowship or things that you are interested in for your career. Again, don't be late. Don't be overly casual in your language, dress, or tone. Okay. So final ranking. So I talked about this a little bit. They are due by March 6th. Please put them into the system by March 6th. This really helps us start the evaluation process as soon as possible. So as soon as you get them in, the sooner we can start evaluating and the sooner you will find out. So really be honest with yourself when you are ranking the fellowship sites. If you really thought like, I really actually think that that work is not what I was thinking that it was going to be. It doesn't seem like it's the right match for me. Be honest and put those in the comments, right? And because like I said, in additional to the numeric rankings, we really do look at those comments. So yeah, be as detailed as you can in your feedback in the comments, which will help us make the correct match for you. Um, these are some examples of good um, feedback quotes that we have gotten over the past few years. So this is the type of thing that we are looking for to help us make these decisions. Especially if, you're going in and ranking and you think, gosh, graduate admissions and undergraduate admissions, they were both so great. I just really don't know. You can say, I'm ranking 1 and 2, but really I feel like I'm a good fit, or these would be a good fit for me, either one, right? So just kind of let us know that, because there might be another student that says graduate admission, no way, but you know what I mean? So just help us out with being as detailed as you can in your feedback. Okay, so that is it for the slideshow. I see that there are a number of questions in the chat, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we will get into some of these questions that you have. Let's see here. Okay.
So let's start with the first question, which was, if you get a provost fellowship, could you also get scholarship money? And if you're in a 2-year program after the fellowship, for the first year, could you get scholarship money the second year?
well, typically we are a one discount shop, right? So if you get a provost fellowship, that is your award for your program. Occasionally, we can give additional scholarship money to like a 2-year program, right? Especially, like I said, the more expensive programs. But generally, the rule is one discount.
I also want to reiterate that for different programs, you have different fellowships. For example, if you are in the exercise science program, you have fellowships that are geared towards your program, and that's why you see a variety. But if you're in the social work program, as we already discussed, because of CSWE guidelines, you have to do a fellowship that meets the criteria for your internship and clinical experience in the first year. And those are only presidential level. So that's why the social work folks don't see any provost level, because it doesn't meet the criteria for their program. So that's why there's a difference, right? So I just want to reiterate that depending upon the program that you're in, there's a list of positions that meet the criteria for your program, right? Now, some programs don't have criteria, right? If you're in criminology and criminal justice, you can do something that might give you transferable skills, but it may not be something that's particular to criminology and criminal justice. Okay.
And I'll just add that the opposite can also be true, right? There are some programs where you can only have a provost fellowship because of the
Right.
requirements of the program, right?
Right.
Speech language pathology is an example of that, right? Where the students have to be working in their internship sites in the first year, and they're only able to fit in 15 hours a week. So depending on program, it can be very different.
Yep. So that's why it's very particular to you and to your program. Another question Jared asked was, how many positions currently exist for the graduate resident director position? And Isabella asked, does each position have multiple openings, or does it depend on the fellowship? And I wrote, it depends on the fellowship. But for GRD, Jeannie, we typically have 5 to 6 openings, correct?
Yeah, I want to say like I feel like we've gone as high as 7 in that, but that's generally
Year to year.
yeah, year to year. So again, we have a budget that we're working within, right? So we also are placing you guys within what the scholarship allowance that we have is. So just because a site may have said like, oh, I requested 8 students, they're not necessarily going to get 8 students. It's as many as we can fit in within what they absolutely need and our budgets. There's a minimum, that they absolutely need to function, right? But if we have extra scholarship dollars, we will add more as we go along. So,
Another question were about virtual or remote fellowships. And we do have probably one or two remote fellowships, and it would
very
be
few.
listed
Yeah.
in the description of the fellowship position. So if you are in one of the programs that has a virtual or remote, it would be listed. But most of them, I mean, 99% are in person on campus.
Yeah. And I see that, Maddie, if you're still here, we are recording this and we will be sending this out. There's a lot of people who couldn't make it tonight also. So we will send this out, and Megan will likely send the slides out as well, just so you have that timeline, etc.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, on the 25th, when we find out if we got selected for an interview, is that going to be in our grad application portal, or are we going to get an email?
Well, it will be in your grad admission portal, but you will get an email letting you know to go into your portal to look at it.
And how long do we have? When do the interviews finish up?
So the interview days are March 5th and 6th.
Okay.
No, the interview
Sorry.
date is March 2nd through the 5th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
But if you get alerted on the 25th, you have a few days to go into the portal and schedule your interviews. So you want to make sure you jump on it as soon as you can.
Right. I will say get in there as soon as you get that email and choose your time slots.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You got it.
Sydney, so another question that Grace asked was, do supervisors have a set number of applicants they can consider, or do they just offer interviews to whomever they deem good for the job, regardless of the amount? Again, it depends on the position. So I am a supervisor. I have one position. I will interview as many students as I can, so that I get the best candidate I can for that one position. So it really depends on the position, but there are some supervisors that have multiple positions to fill, so they'll keep interviewing folks. And then another question that Sydney asked was, can they go back and change rankings after you've submitted? So I guess, Sydney, I have a question for you. Do you mean after your interview when you've decided position A is number 1, position B is number 2, position C is number 3, or do you mean after you've selected your positions that you want to interview for? Right.
I mean, after we've selected our rankings before Friday was my question. Do we have time to go back and change
You
those?
do. Yes. So it's like a shopping cart right now, right? You're looking at all the positions that you could interview for, and you're choosing your top 6. So I really encourage you to go back and reread the descriptions and think about your experience and your background and what Jeannie said, what you want to get out of this fellowship, and try to match that. And again, if you have the ability to look at a provost fellowship, don't discount it. For my students in this room that are clinical mental health counseling, for example, we have some pretty phenomenal provost fellowships that give that you can work with a faculty member to do research, and those fellowships are great, and the students love them. They absolutely love them, and they're just 15 hours a week. And so think about you, think about your life, think about what is best for you, right? If you have a provost fellowship, that gives you more time for your schoolwork. It gives you more time for your home life. It may even give you more time to do your babysitting job on Saturdays. So just think about you and what makes the sense for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sarah asked, does CMHC have the same restrictions requirements as MSW? No, they don't. CMHC doesn't do their internship and clinical placement until the 2nd year. But that's also why for those folks that asked about the second year for your two-year programs, because you're doing clinicals in your second year, that's another reason why you can't do a fellowship your second year.
And
So
yes, MSW counts as your internship hours. That's why there are so few social work sites because they have to be so aligned. So essentially, your social work students get lucky because you are double dipping, right? Your fellowship and your internship sites are the same hours.
And for Dylan, thank you for asking the question about speech language pathology. This is our first year offering speech language pathology, and the first year we're offering fellowship. And as Jeannie mentioned, because of the clinical experience in the first year of your program, you only have time to do a provost fellowship. So for SLP, you'll only see provost fellowships listed. How does a site determine whether or not you deserve an interview? Is it strictly based on resume? No, it's based on resume and your fellowship essay. Okay, and this is where it's really important. So we ask you to write a fellowship essay answering 2 questions. And unlike a cover letter, it has to be general because you are using this essay to apply across positions. So we ask, what do you hope to get out of a fellowship and what skills do you bring to a fellowship? So that's shared with the supervisors, and the supervisors read your essay and look at your resume, and they make a determination if they think you would be a good fit for their position.
And as far as how is the feedback and mentorship structured for fellows? Well, similarly to the application portal, there is a fellowship portal once you become a fellow where you will log things like your hours, you will give feedback on what the experience is like. The supervisors will do the same. Megan also checks in with you on a regular basis to make sure that things are going well. But you will be required to go in there and talk about your experience, good or bad, and supervisors will do the same. So we are constantly monitoring that to make sure that you're not doing too many hours, you're not doing too few hours, and that you are getting what you need from your site supervisor.
And Barbara asked a good question. She asked if we send the resume or do you send the resume? What's lovely about this process is your resume and your fellowship essay that you shared with us in the application process are automatically shared with the interviews for the position. I mean, automatically shared with the supervisors of the positions that you requested, right? So we send it, you don't have to do that.
Thank
And
you.
so when they're going to meet with you, they're already going to have your resume and your fellowship essay in front of them, right? I'm old school. I print them all out. I know who you are. I know what your experience is. I have questions ready to go for you when you come into my room. So each supervisor should have you front and center when you interview.
Great. Thank
They have access to the portal, right, also. So they're going in there, they can only see what we show them, right, which is the fellowship essay and resume. And that's where they rank also, right? So we all kind of have it in one combined system. Okay, let's see. If we accept a fellowship, are there any contractual obligations regarding outside work / sources of income? I would say no, right? But it is very difficult to fit in 25 hours a week at a fellowship and a graduate program. So if you are committing to outside work, be very careful about what that is. I would say that, weekends only, right? And again, if you're in a GRD position, there's going to be on-call hours for you. So you really wouldn't be able to do that. So I would be very careful about trying to work on the side. I understand that students need to do that, right? You might need an income. But maybe that's when you want to consider a provost fellowship, right? So that you're only doing 15 hours a week in your fellowship, and then you have some time to be able to have a little part-time job.
We have two folks that have hands
Yeah.
raised. William, do you want to go first?
Yes, thank you. Just bouncing off of that point about work, I previously worked for the school while I was attending. I was wondering if there are any positions or anywhere we should look for positions to be able to work on campus as the same time we are participating in these fellowships, just due to the fact that I think being employed by Merrimack, they're going to be more understanding with our hours and responsibilities to the fellowship.
Well, I would say on-campus jobs are typically posted through Handshake, right? So that's where you would look at for those. We also have a graduate student newsletter that goes out every other week. And if there are any on-campus jobs, they are typically, or if that are specific for graduate students, they're typically advertised there. Um, but yeah, I would say, William, just make sure that anything that you do, you clear with your supervisor, right? You have to think of your supervisor as your boss, essentially.
Yeah, I'm going after the fellowship, a couple of fellowships dealing with sports because I want to be in the communications field, sports management. So I know most of those hours might deal more around the weekend. So I know that maybe finding a weekday job might be fine for me, but is there flexible? Uh, is it typically just a dead, you have to reach 25 hours, not allowed to go over or under?
That's going to be up to your supervisor, right? So essentially, it's the schedule you're going to work out with your supervisor. However, we are monitoring that for equity, right? So if I see that you're only working 10 hours a week and Liana's working her full 25 hours a week, we are going to intervene there, right? Because we want it to be
It's
fair
not
for
fair.
all the
Yeah.
students. Yeah. Yeah.
I also saw, I think somebody else comment this. We're able to see who were the site supervisors are currently, right, in the fellowship portal.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll
And
see
then
their
just
name.
last question. Thank
Yeah.
you. Just last question, because I know housing has to go in for on-campus housing soon. Is there any benefits to being a grad student with on-campus housing, or is it just that room and board is connected in that way?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Just like is because I know previously when I attended that it was better to go like through Merrimack to go to Royal Crest, like in the Royal Crest apartments that Merrimack owned.
Yeah.
Is there any benefits for like say a provost person who is taking care of like a certain percentage? Is it, I guess I'm losing how I was thinking about phrasing this.
I mean, I will
Um,
just say that as far as housing goes, right? Luckily for us, we have these two new dorms that we built this year. So we will have more graduate student housing this year than we have had before. So I don't think it will be very competitive necessarily. I think if you're looking for housing, you will get it. If you're asking, does the housing office prioritize students who are fellows? Sometimes, right?
okay.
So, like, I do ask them to do that, especially if there's a student that's working on campus. Um, you know, they do think that through when they're placing students in housing. But again, I think we'll have plenty of housing this year, so I'm not concerned that there'll be graduate students who won't get it.
And then very last thing, is there an opportunity for us to meet other grad fellows or other people in going back to school in the graduate programs to connect over maybe becoming roommates in any way or any Facebook group chats, that kind of thing?
So the off-campus housing office does have a roommate finder. So you can go through the Res Life website and find the roommate finder, which they do have there. We typically also have some type of graduate admitted student celebration at the very end of May or beginning of June, a chance for you to meet other graduate students. So look out for that to be announced. I think we had like May 31st, but we may have changed that date. So you'll have to I'll have to get back to you on the actual date of that, but typically it's sort of like an admitted student day for graduate students that we do. Generally, it is for the fellows to meet each other. But I will also say that, we have an orientation late in the summer, so it wouldn't necessarily work for a housing situation or roommate situation. But as far as meeting other fellows, you'll absolutely meet them through the training, through the graduate orientation that we have. And during the training week, we also have a fellow luncheon and we have like meet and greet time. So there's absolutely time for you fellows to meet with each other for sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. And Sarah, I see that you have had your hand raised for a while.
Yeah, I actually have a very similar question that
Okay.
as far as like hours go, is it possible like one week it'll be 10 hours and another week it'll be 35 because there's like an event or something? Or is it a hard fast 25 per week?
I mean, generally, we like to really see it the 25 hours per week, right? Your supervisor is going to likely prefer that. But to your point, right, if there is an event or say you're working in undergraduate admissions and they're getting ready for admitted student day, they might say to you, I really need you 30 hours this week. So again, that's something that you would work out with your supervisor. But generally, again, for equity purposes and all of that, we like to see it the number of hours that are awarded.
I want to just speak to that, Sarah. I mean, we have events for grad, and my grad fellow will work events, and then I try to adjust her hours accordingly, right? So if she's working an event on a weekend and she's putting in, 6 hours on a weekend, then during the week, maybe she doesn't come in one of the days that she's supposed to come in because she already worked on Saturday, right? So we try to work it out ahead of time. And, a fellow and a supervisor should have that direct communication where you anticipate those kinds of things.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, so we're back to the chat. We have some other questions. If someone accepts a fellowship position but drops out or loses the position, can it be rewarded to someone else?
I mean, again, this is going to be a dependent situation. It depends when it happens, right? So if it happens at the beginning of the year, um, right before you've started your fellowship, absolutely, we're going to just replace that position. Generally, we will keep the rankings on file, right? And it's so if it's like if you were the next choice, we would let that supervisor know, oh, we do have a student who was interested in that position, and we may have you re-interview for that. During the year, likely, I mean, again, it depends. Like we've had all kinds of situations happen, and really we deal with them on a case-by-case basis. Um, so I would say it's possible, but it would depend on the situation.
So Brianna writes, when doing the first round of rankings due February 13th, am I just picking the top 6 I want to apply for? Or am I also ranking them 1 to 6, with 1 being my first pick and 6 being my last pick? I would say that yes, you can rank them, but what I find is that many students, they think they have a top position and then they might interview for that and then it flips, right? So you might read a job description and you think, oh, I really want that position. I really want that position. But then you interview with all of your positions and the one that you thought you were least interested in might become the one that you become the most interested in, because maybe you hit it off with the supervisor, or maybe you find out something about the position that wasn't listed in the job description. So I just say pick the 6 positions again that you feel will meet your needs the best and keep an open mind.
But I would say, like, generally, yes, it is. You're putting number 1 as your top position. But to Liana's point, that does often change after the interviews happen. So we don't put too much weight in that when we are matching. But yes, do pick your first choice as number 1 and then all the way down to 6. And Andrew, I see that you asked about a cover letter if you get accepted for an interview. Can't hurt, right? I would send it to that supervisor, right? Once you have a interview scheduled with them, you will have their email address. It certainly couldn't hurt to help them understand why you're interested in the position. Okay, we answered that. So let's see. Is it beneficial to reach out to the site supervisor before we know if we will get an interview? Um, I would not do that. I would wait until they've reviewed your resume and application. So, um, I don't, we don't need them to get sort of pressured beforehand by 100 students to say, you know, that they're interested. Let's just let the process go, right? And then kind of see what happens. But once you are approved to interview with them, I would say it's okay to reach out. Luke.
Kind of based off that, I am in a case where I'm in exercise sports science, and right now I'm at Springfield College. And for our requirements, I need to do a 400-hour internship to graduate,
Okay.
and I'm doing it over the summer. And one of the locations that I have in my top six is also where I'm looking to intern over the summer.
Okay.
So in that case, I believe I might run into the same interview person before my interview. Like for
You're,
is that okay? Or should I
yeah,
look to
Luke.
also like
Yes.
do I double book an interview for that site, or is that something I kind of work out with them and be like
I would.
what all that stuff? I'm not sure.
So you're saying that you might be interviewing with, let's say it's Harvard, right?
It is, yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
you're okay. So maybe you're interviewing with Harvard already because you have to finish up your undergraduate requirements. You're going to be working over the summer, but then you also see that Harvard is listed as one of the fellowship sites for exercise science. So um, that's a unique. I don't think I've ever gotten that question. Have you gotten that question before, Jeannie?
No,
That's a different one. I
that's
think
why
you
I let
need
you
to,
answer it.
yeah, I think you need to talk to the supervisor of that. I think you should keep it clean. I think you
Yeah.
should let them know that, you're interviewing with them for your summer internship, but also let them know that you hope to interview with them for your fellowship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So supervisors are not allowed to make an offer. So that's an excellent question here, and one that we probably should have talked about is that the matches will come from graduate admission. They do not come from the supervisors. Again, like I said, we take the rankings, we make the matches. So if someone offers you a position during an interview, that is not okay, and you should probably tell me that. But generally, they know that that's not okay. And we are the official matchmakers. And Sarah, yes, you will be provided the contact information. So once you make an interview slot with someone, you will get their email address.
Now, it is possible that, we've had students that have interviewed beautifully, and for every single interview that they've had, that that supervisor wants them, right? Um, but that's where we really rely on the student to tell us what they want,
Yeah.
and that helps us match.
And I will say that yes, there are certain requirements for staff and faculty to serve as supervisors, right? So when they apply to be a supervisor, we put them through a similar process that we put you through, as far as asking them what their supervisory style is like, what their experience is like supervising students. But again, that is why we have the fellowship portal, the weekly portal, where you are logging your hours and your experience. That gives us the data to let us know if the site is a good one, if the supervisor is a good one, right? So as much feedback as you can give us in those portal sites is also really helpful, right? That's how we determine year after year which sites we will continue and which ones we might need to look for either a different supervisor or a different site for a student.
Thank you.
You got it. And Brianna, I see you have your hand up too. You put your hand down, so maybe you're done.
Oh no, sorry, I hit the
Okay,
wrong
yeah,
button. I hit the wrong button. I meant
no
to hit the
worries.
unmute.
Okay.
Okay, for the GRD,
Yeah.
is this in the same rankings as this round, or is that its own separate? Because I
No,
didn't see any.
it's through this process. Yeah.
Okay, for the grad. So maybe, okay. And then, so would it be in the same rankings? Like I'm under exercise science and I only see the exercise science rankings. Am I just missing them, or is there the resident, the like resident ones in there as well?
I'm actually not sure if exercise and sports science is in the GRD, right? Like because exercise and sports science has so many of their own fellowships, GRD might not be available to you, but I have to double check on that. I have to ask Megan, my fellowship guru. Um, but I will check on that and let you know.
Okay, thank you. And I had one more question about like
Sure.
when we send in, I heard that housing open soon, the housing portal, but
Uh-huh.
if I'm waiting to put my deposit in until knowing when the fellowship, like what if like I got a fellowship, how would I be putting myself at a disadvantage waiting because if housing opens before that?
Um, that's a good question also. That's probably a question honestly that you need to ask Res Life, because we don't have any control over housing.
Okay, when does the housing portal open when you choose housing?
You mean as a graduate student?
Yes.
It opens after the undergraduates. Again, I will have to check on that. I'm not sure about the housing dates. So I
Okay,
have
no.
two, I was gonna say I have two things to follow up with you on, Brianna. So if exercise and sports science can be a GRD and about the housing portal. So I will find out and I will let you know this information tomorrow. Probably you'll hear from Megan about it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
So we're almost at time. Does anybody else have any other questions that we didn't answer tonight? William, I think you just raised your hand.
Yeah, just going back to I'm just wondering about working on campus. Have you guys previously had any graduate fellows that have been able to balance working for an on-campus job as well as doing their fellowship?
Yes, yes. And I will say that those students that I have seen have the most amazing color coded schedules that I have seen in my life. Like I literally scheduled 15 minutes to rest and go on Instagram, and then I scheduled 10 minutes to drive from here to there. I mean, I'm being totally serious when I'm saying this to you. And I have seen students make it work, but you have to be that scheduled and that type of person.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because previously I worked for Brandon Clinton, so I wouldn't mind going back to work for him.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
love Brandon. Yeah,
oh, he's the best.
he is.
But I was also considering I worked previously as a headshot photographer, but I think they moved that role to being more for undergrad students, which I think is good for them to grow. But I did get my personal training certification being outside of school. So I would be interested in doing something like that, or maybe teaching like some sort of a fitness class.
Very cool. So I would say, stay in touch with your department, right? Because a lot of those might be offered through health science, fitness class opportunities like that. And again, Handshake is where typically if we're looking to hire a student, that's where we post the jobs.
Do you know when they might start releasing those jobs, or if they're out now, if I should wait until the summer?
Likely they're not released yet, right?
Yeah.
I would say it's probably going to be either late May or into the summer by the time that they know what those jobs are going to be for next year.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. Dylan says, I want to clarify, will we hear back on February 25th if we got an interview offer? No, the 25th is when wait, now I have to go back to my slides. I have to make sure that I'm going to tell you the right thing.
I think
You will be notified February 25th through 27th if you have been invited to interview, and that's when the slots will open.
right. Great.
Okay, like I said, we will share these slides. Probably Megan has sent you the timeline in an email anyway. If not, I'm sure that's coming soon. But again, we will share this recording and we will share the slides also. Oh,
We
I
have,
see Sarah and Luke. Do you have another question? Sarah first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering if the supervisors will consider or do consider like this class schedule of the fellow.
That's something that you will talk to them with during your interview, right? You'll let them know what program you're in. Generally, they will know what the course schedules are like for different programs. One thing that I say to the students and to the supervisors all the time is that you are a student first, right? Even though the fellowship is like a job, you are here to be a student first. And so generally, they should allow you to schedule your fellowship hours around your classes. Yep. And Luke.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, so you said that so like for all the fellowship positions, you said they'll all be like selected at the end of May. But would it be beneficial to like, start an internship like during the summer? Like that way you could like update your resume like before fellowships start in August?
I mean, we will be matching you with your fellowship in like early April, late March. So an internship, like we would have already matched you. So if you're asking about would that help you get matched, it would not. But if you're asking would that help you develop some skills for your fellowship,
Well, like, yeah, right. That's what I'm trying to ask. It's like if I like started an internship during the summer, like would that be a better way to like, gain more experience like before I go into the fellowship?
I mean, I think it depends on the area, right? And that's something that I would probably talk to your fellowship supervisor about because then they can be specific about what skills they're looking for.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'll just add, the general graduate mailbox is graduate@merrimack.edu. So if you think of a question tonight that you forgot about, you can always email us at graduate@merrimack.edu and we will try to help you.